Is it time for Texas to make a change at the top? Let's talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Plenty more to dive into from Texas and Georgia on Saturday night. But first, let's talk about the question that I posed at the top of the show. Is it time for Texas football to make a change at the top? After another loss to Georgia that stuck a dagger into the heart of the Longhorns' SEC championship hopes and potentially a spot in the playoff too, after starting the year as the #1 team in America, coming off of back-to-back trips to the college football playoff semifinal, obviously the start of the Arch Manning era, all of the hype, all of the expectation, all of that for this, the Longhorns 7-3, and on the outside looking in, needing a miracle with 2 games left in the regular season. So is it time for something different? Do I think Texas needs to move on from Steve Sarkisian? No. Absolutely not. I don't even think that should be a discussion. And I don't think any of the powers that be at the University of Texas are discussing that right now. Sark has unquestionably earned the right to get this program back to where it's been the last 2 years. Considering the job that he had done in his first 4 years as the head coach at Texas, bringing this program back from the dead, he has earned the right to get the opportunity to get things turned around. Now, saying that, do I think Texas needs to change the structure of Steve Sarkisian's coaching staff? Now, that's a discussion that's worth having, and that's a discussion that I think is being had right now down on campus. I want to be a little careful here because anything negative that I say today could be thrown out the window in 2 months if Texas smokes Arkansas and smokes A&M and makes it to the playoff and then makes a deep run in the college football playoff. All of what I'm about to say could be flushed down the toilet. And I think we hope it will be. But obviously, that's a big if. Of course, the season isn't over. Texas still has a chance to make the playoff. A great chance, obviously not, but crazier things have happened. But still, at this point in the year, with what we've seen, this is a conversation that is worth having because we have a big enough sample size this season and in recent seasons to know one thing for sure. This Texas offense just isn't good enough to beat elite competition. We talked about Steve Sarkisian falling to 1-7 against top 5 teams during his Texas tenure. We talked about the top 5 losing streak reaching 6 games after Saturday night's loss. We talked about the fact that Steve Sarkisian is now 2-12 all time against top 5 opponents. We talked about all of that in the post-game show that I posted yesterday. But it's not just that Steve Sarkisian's teams are losing. It's the fact that his side of the ball, the offense, continues to fall flat in the biggest spots. In those matchups, those 8 matchups against top 5 teams, Texas has only scored 20 points twice. The 2023 win at Alabama, Sark's last win against the top 5 team, where Texas scored 34. And then the Sugar Bowl loss to Washington later that same season, where the Longhorns got to 31. Outside of that, the numbers are ugly. 10 against Georgia on Saturday, 7 against Ohio State in week 1. You had 19 and 15 in the 2 games against Georgia last season, 10 against TCU in 2022, 19 against Alabama in the loss in Austin in that same 2022 season. I get it. Top 5 teams are ranked in the top 5 for a reason. It's hard to beat them. They are very, very good. But again, everybody knows if you want to win championships, which I don't like speaking for other people, but I feel pretty confidently speaking for y'all there. We all want to win championships. You need to be able to beat top 5 teams. And it's very difficult to do that when you can't put 20 points up on the scoreboard. We're not talking about 40 here. We're not even talking about 30 here. Texas has had a hard time reaching 20 against elite competition. For the Longhorns to get over the hump, they need more from their offense. It's really that simple. And I just don't think you can sit idly by and keep being comfortable losing to Ohio State and Georgia every time that you play them without making any changes. Bringing in an offensive play caller is something that should be strongly considered. And I know I am far from the first Texas fan to bring this up. Heck, it's been brought up by a number of y'all in the comments throughout the season. I'm always checking those, by the way. Thank y'all for sending them in. And I've preached patience. Like, let's wait and see how the rest of the year plays out before we start demoting and hiring people. I'm just starting to wonder if the big money donors and Chris Del Conte are comfortable waiting much longer. I wonder if the Aggie game is like one last chance for Sark to prove himself that he can be the head coach and the offensive play caller of this program. Like, if Texas scores 35 and they beat A&M, handing the Aggies their first loss of the year, is that enough for Sark to get another year calling plays? What do you think about that? Would love to get your thoughts. Have you already moved on? Have you already turned the page? Are you ready to bring in an offensive play caller? Or do you think Sark maybe has earned another year to do that? I wonder if your decision's already made. More importantly, I wonder if CDC's decision, with the assistance of some bigwigs, is also already made. The easiest argument in favor of bringing in an offensive play caller, look at the two coaches who keep beating Sark, Ryan Day and Kirby Smart. Neither of them call their own plays. Funny enough, Ryan Day called the offensive plays at Ohio State for years, but he kept losing to Michigan. They kept falling short in the playoff against great teams. So what does Ryan Day do? He hires Chip Kelly before last season, and the Buckeyes go on to win the national championship. Still lost to Michigan, though, but they won it all, the ultimate prize. It was a great decision for Ohio State. Kirby Smart, do I need to run down his resume? He clearly has a big hand in what happens with the Georgia defense, but it's Glenn Schumann who calls the plays. Like, Kirby Smart is comfortable enough to let somebody else do that job so he can focus on the other responsibilities that go into being a head coach. Game management, Kirby Smart has coached circles around Steve Sarkisian. A big part of that, I don't know. Kirby Smart maybe is the time to think about when he's going to try a fake punt or an onside kick. Meanwhile, Steve Sarkisian's thinking about, what plays am I going to call on the next offensive series? You don't think that makes a difference? And my God, forget just in-game. There are so many other responsibilities that go into being a head coach with the portal and NIL and revenue sharing and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics. It is harder to be a college football coach than ever before. And it's not even close. It feels like it's getting harder and harder every year. Maybe more reason to bring somebody else in. Look at some of the other top coaches around the country. Kalen DeBoer doesn't call his own plays. Marcus Freeman doesn't call his own plays. Lane Kiffin doesn't call his own plays anymore. More and more coaches are starting to realize that maybe doing less and less is a good thing for their team. And here's the money stat right here. Maybe I should have started with this, right? There has only been one national championship winning head coach in the last 25 years who has called plays, either offense or defense. It doesn't matter. Just one national title winning head coach who has also called plays. Funny enough, the one who did that was Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. That was before the playoff era even began, and we all know what happened to Jimbo. He wasn't willing to pass along those duties. Things fell apart for him at College Station. So one in the last 25 years, also only 4 title-winning coaches in the last 40 years have called offensive or defensive plays. So the odds are really stacked against Steve Sarkisian here. Not only can Texas maybe learn from what's happened to Texas with the Longhorns coming up short in some of these big games, but maybe you can look around the country and see that the numbers are pretty heavily in favor of having somebody else call the play so the head coach can just focus on everything that goes in to being a head coach. 36 of the last 40 national title winning head coaches did not call plays. That's 90%. 24 of the last 25 did not call plays. That's 96%. And again, since the college football playoff started in 2014, every coach who has won it all has not called plays. That feels like enough evidence to strongly consider a change for me. Now, I don't think Steve Sarkisian will ever voluntarily give up play calling. He was asked about this earlier in the season and said, no, I think I'm really good at that. I'm going to continue doing that. But I don't know if it's going to be his choice. You wonder if this team misses the playoff, especially if they go 8-4 or maybe even 7-5. Remember, they could go 7-5. You wonder if Sark's going to have the opportunity to even make that choice. I don't think he will. I don't think the power brokers at Texas are just going to be like, nah, it's cool. We're fine. We'll figure it out. We'll get over the Ohio State and Georgia hump eventually. Like, let's just keep doing the same thing. No reason to change anything. I don't know if that's how it's going to work. You can't go from where you've been the last 2 years and preseason number one this year to missing the playoff and potentially being 8-4 without nothing happening. It's just not how it works at Texas. My 2 cents. What say you? Would love to hear your thoughts. Comment below with your thoughts on Steve Sarkisian. Are you ready to move on from Sark altogether? Or are you like me and you're thinking maybe it's time for a new voice on offense? Speaking of the offense, more from Saturday. It's just been a 1 step forward, 2 steps back for that side of the ball all year. A little more post-mortem from Saturday's brutal showing. And honestly, why this offense was doomed to fail from the beginning. We'll get to that next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, so is college basketball, and there is no better place to get in on all of the hoops action than with our friends at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or if you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score the next basket to crazy fourth quarter or second half comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same game parlays for shots at even bigger payouts. Yeah, FanDuel, more ways to play, more ways to win when you're watching the Longhorns or any of your favorite teams play on the hardwood any night. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And also a shout out to Doer. Oh man, I absolutely love my Doer jeans. I wear them all the time. They are the most comfortable pair of pants that I own. More comfortable than joggers, more comfortable than sweats. I seriously love these Doer jeans. Why? Well, they have the comfort and performance of athletic wear, but you can actually wear these out in public because they have that classic jeans wear style that everybody loves. There's a reason everybody wears blue jeans. They look great. They never go out of style. You can wear them with anything. But in the past, they've been so uncomfortable. Like as soon as you get home, I got to take these jeans off. I got to get into shorts. I got to get into sweats, whatever. You don't have to do that anymore with Doer because they have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They're also antibacterial, which means they're going to stay fresh longer so you can wear your Doer jeans more and wash them less. They feel stretchy without looking stretchy. It really is the best of both worlds. The most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. I'm telling you, once you try these, they are going to become your go-to. So get a pair for yourself. Go to shopdoer.com/lockedonlonghorns. That's shopduer.com/lockedonlonghorns. And you're going to get 15% off your first order. Again, shopdoer.com/lockedonlonghorns for 15% off. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. More autopsy from Georgia 35, Texas 10. You know, we were all hoping that the Texas offense had found something after their miraculous fourth quarter comeback against Mississippi State and then the impressive showing for pretty much all 4 quarters against Vanderbilt. We were hoping they had turned a corner, and we were all hoping that the offensive line problems had been solved with the insertion of Cole Hudson at left guard and Connor Robertson at center. And we were all hoping that the running backs and receivers would be way more explosive with the extra week off. All of that hope was for naught. Like our pennies thrown into the wishing well were picked up by a janitor and thrown straight in the garbage as soon as we left. Instead of Texas picking up where it left off, the Longhorns got boat raced, lost by 25 in a must-win game coming off of a bye. And with 2 weeks to prepare, you were able to score just 10 points. Not like the Texas defense was great. They weren't. They're not off the hook for Saturday. But come on. Who are you beating in this league with 10 points? That's not going to get you by Kentucky. It's not going to get you by Auburn. Sure as hell it's not going to get you by Georgia at their place. This Texas offense was almost destined to fail. These are problems that we had hoped wouldn't find us, but were almost too predictable to avoid. Like the coaching staff going all the way back to the offseason, the coaching staff deciding that they were perfectly comfortable letting 80% of their offensive line walk and then just not doing anything in the portal to address it. Like, why would we want a bunch of established players who can help us win now? Guys we already know are good enough to compete and win in college football. Now, we don't need them. Let's just take a chance on a bunch of unproven guys and hope that it works. Look at the team that just beat you. Remember last year, Georgia's wide receivers couldn't catch a cold. They were horrible. That was their biggest problem as a team. So what does Kirby Smart do in the offseason? Brings in receivers from the portal. Noah Thomas scored 2 touchdowns against Texas. Portal addition. Zachariah Branch, who led Georgia with 6 catches. He's their leading receiver this year. Portal addition. Texas lied to itself and just assumed that the offensive line was going to be just fine despite everything that it lost. Texas also lied to itself, assuming that C.J. Baxter and Christian Clark, both coming off of incredibly serious leg injuries that cost them the entire 2024 season, they thought they'd be the exact same players as they were pre-surgery. Totally unnecessary gamble. And the Texas running backs have been really bad this year. This is Sark's worst rushing offense that he's ever had. Head coach, offensive coordinator, anywhere. It's the worst rushing offense a Steve Sarkisian team has ever had. The egos of this coaching staff got in the way of them making sensible decisions to bolster a roster that everybody clearly thought was ready to win this year. I mean, Texas was the number 1 team in the country going into this year. People thought this was a team that was ready to win right now. And instead of going for it in the portal, they just hoped their development would be good enough to get them over the hump. Hope is not a plan, boys and girls. The offensive line is bad. We spent all last week talking about how Georgia's defensive line had been a far cry from their units in previous years. What did Texas do? They made that group look like the freaking 85 Bears. I mean, it felt like Jalen Walker and Jalen Carter and Mykel Williams and Jordan Davis. It felt like all those guys were back. Oh, my God. Could you imagine what those 4 would have done to this Texas offensive line? Holy cow. Arch Manning might be in a casket today if that happened. But still, the Georgia defensive line that had really struggled this year, they had 3 sacks, tied for a season high, about 30 pressures allowed, 23 hurries allowed. We talked about the rushing stats yesterday, 1.4 yards a carry as a team for the Longhorns. Texas ran for 33 yards on the first drive and then had -10 the rest of the way. How does that even happen? 33 on the first drive, very good. -10 in every other drive? Impressively bad, honestly. Improbable and impressively bad. Cole Hudson got absolutely worked. The left guard is still a problem. By the way, it was a true freshman defensive tackle who was eating Cole Hudson's lunch for most of the game. 7 pressures, 6 hurries allowed, 2 penalties for Cole Hudson. He gave up a huge hit on Arch Manning as well. You know, the left guard positions hasn't been fixed. And considering we're 5/6 of the way through the season, it's safe to say that it won't be fixed in 2025. Offensive line, still bad. The wide receivers. Man, I said it a couple of weeks ago. Ryan Wingo is the most frustrating player on this team. The drops are just brutal. You can't have them. And I know Wingo wasn't alone in that department, unfortunately, on Saturday, but he is a repeat offender. Like the barista knows his coffee order because he's there so much. That's Ryan Wingo with the drops. Targeted 13 times against the Dogs, 62 yards. That's 4 yards per target. That is unfathomable inefficiency right there. This coaching staff really wants to get the ball to Ryan Wingo, and at times you see why, but it's not working enough. Outside of the drops, there were a couple of plays where he just went down when he got breathed on. Like the physicality gap between these two teams, it's not just on the lines of scrimmage. It's everywhere else. And you can't make an athlete your number 1 receiver against a defense that forces him to run real routes when he can't convert those gimmies. Texas ball catchers had 5 drops. All of them felt crucial, either third down or potential big play conversion lost. Wide receiver edge blocking was also uncharacteristically bad. That's an area where Texas has been really good this year, and Georgia DBs just kind of threw them around. They had no problems getting through or by them. Just a bad day for the wide receivers. Jack Andrews had 9 yards receiving at tight end. Jordan Washington had 18 snaps. I'd argue that's about 17 too many. Tight end room is awful. And then back to the physicality front. You know, Texas ball carriers of any kind, running backs, receivers, whatever, they broke 2 tackles for the entire game. A 4% rate. That is a remarkable statistic, and not in a good way. I'm not sure I've ever seen it that bad ever at Texas. Physicality is not just in the trenches, ladies and gents. Like the receivers, the running backs, you're not breaking tackles. What are we doing here? Trey Wisner, yards after contact, 1.6. Basically falling to the ground when you get hit. Quality running backs have over 3 yards per carry after contact. Trey Wisner, 1.6. He's incredibly undersized. I'll give him credit for what he did in pass pro, but after the first carry where he went for 16 yards, there was just not a lot right for him. It's just tough for him against defenses like that. And then CJ Baxter, I hate dogging him, but he's just really bad right now. 27 snaps, only 1 carry. He doesn't belong on the field right now. Hopefully he will in 2026, but right now he doesn't. Quarterback, a silver lining if there is one. And if you're into those, I thought Arch Manning played pretty well. Like, he's no longer the biggest problem with this offense. We are way past that. Stat line, not super impressive. 27 of 43, 251 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 5 drops in there didn't help. No running game didn't help. Running for his life all game didn't help. But I thought he played well early. I thought he exhibited good poise for most of the game, considering the lack of support from the other 10 guys around him. It was a one-dimensional offense facing Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann. That ain't going to work. Arch also got the crap knocked out of him again, but still threw some good throws. The interception, that was an errant throw. I would argue that DeAndre Moore was held on that play. Maybe if he's not interfered with, he can put his hands up and make a play on the ball, but a little bit of an errant throw. Bad miss from Arch. I'm honestly surprised and a little impressed that there weren't more miscues, considering, again, the lack of help from the coaching staff and the other 10 players on the offensive side of the football. He was fine, but he was definitely outplayed by his counterpart. It was all bad. It was all bad, and the bad starts at the top with the Texas offense. It's not just the game planning during the week. It's not just the play calling during the game. The decision-making in the offseason is what has caused this offense to sputter all season long. That's why this team's 7-3 on the outside looking in. All right, one segment to go. Well, this has been a fun show, hasn't it? A quick look around the 40 acres because there was some good from the weekend, and then a few more thoughts on what went wrong in Athens coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. First, a word for our friends at Game Time. Hey, 2 more home games coming up at DKR. A couple of rivalry games here. Texas can take care of Arkansas. They can play spoiler for Texas A&M. There's still plenty of things on the line. There's still plenty of reason for you to get some tickets. And the best way to get college football tickets is with our friends at Game Time. The easiest way to score last-minute seats, best prices, 0 surprise fees. What you see is what you pay every single time. I actually bought tickets on Game Time over the weekend to watch Texas volleyball take on South Carolina. Game Time is faster, cheaper, and easier and less stressful than any other way that I bought tickets in the past. So take the guesswork out of buying your college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, final segment, Monday edition. Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Quick shout out to a few other Texas teams. Longhorn volleyball took care of South Carolina in 4 sets at Gregory Gym yesterday. It was the regular season finale and senior day for Texas volleyball. Nice win for them to close out the regular year. The postseason starts this Friday with the SEC Conference Tournament, and then, of course, the NCAA Tournament as well. Texas ranked number 4. I think they're the 3 seed in the SEC Tournament, but the Longhorns should be hosting some matches early on in the NCAA Tournament. Jared Elliott going for his 3rd national title in 4 years. Texas men's basketball took down Kansas City on Saturday. Texas women's basketball crushed Texas Southern yesterday. How about 111-45? So a solid weekend for the court sports for Texas. All right, there's enough good. It's Monday. One more bad thought on Texas, Georgia. I promise we're not going to be this negative all week. We'll turn the page. We'll talk about how Texas can bounce back and beat Arkansas and then spoil A&M's undefeated season. But Mondays suck and Saturdays sucked. And you know what else sucks? If the season ended today, the Longhorns would not be in the playoff. We know that. Not only that, you know who'd be in? Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech. Like maybe your 3 biggest rivals. Definitely your 2 biggest, up to you on number 3. But A&M, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech, all 3 of them in the playoff right now. and you're not, that really, really sucks. This season is becoming the season from hell, man. Maybe the most disappointing part of the year for Texas football. And it's severely disappointing because I just didn't see it coming. The offensive line struggles, we could have seen that coming. The running back struggles, could have seen it. The quarterback having some ups and downs in his first year as a starter, that all felt feasible. Didn't want it to happen. Obviously hoped it wouldn't happen. But, okay, you understand. What I never saw coming, how bad the Texas secondary has been. I know the Longhorns lost the Thorpe Award winner with Jahdae Barron. I know the Longhorns lost Andrew McCuba, second-round pick. Both of those guys were awesome, and they've been awesome in their rookie seasons in the NFL. But this secondary was still loaded with talent and experience and depth, and it was supposed to be one of the best units in the country. Again, maybe not as good as last year, but still really, really damn good. It has not been good at all since the start of SEC play. We, again, saw coverage busts and poor technique in the secondary. Way too much easy space for Georgia receivers and tight ends to operate in. We talked about that in the postgame a little bit. Just way too many easy pitches and catches for Gunnar Stockton. And that wasn't a one-off. We saw it against Mississippi State. We saw it late when Vanderbilt was making their comeback. Hell, we saw it in the conference opener against Florida. We saw it in Lexington too. The only game where the Texas secondary has played really well in SEC play was Oklahoma. And OU's quarterback was pretty banged up in that game. Every other game, not good enough for the Texas secondary. The Longhorns are outside of the top 80 in the country in passing yards allowed per game. They're bottom 5 in the SEC in that stat. And they've regressed as the season has gone along. We were hoping Michael Taft and Jelani McDonald returning was going to solve all of the problems for Texas on the back end on defense. Wasn't the case. Wasn't the case at all. That group has gotten worse as the years progressed. And again, maybe they weren't going to be, last year going into the playoff, Texas was a top 3 pass defense. They ended the year at number 7. Maybe they weren't going to be that high, but I didn't think they'd be this bad. Dwayne Akina, I know he's a Longhorn legend. This ain't 2005 anymore. Does he get a year 2? Mark Orfe, nobody knew who he was. The safeties coach that Texas brought in from Rutgers, does he get a year 2? Very disappointing. If these last 2 games don't look better, Taylor Green, Arkansas's got an offense. They're not very good, but they could score. They could put up points. We know how good A&M's been this year. If the Texas secondary struggles again these next 2 games and the Longhorns go 1-1 or 0-2, you do wonder if some changes could be made, not only on the offensive staff, but with the defensive staff too. The secondary just has not been good enough. And you're losing a lot of key pieces. Michael Taft's going to be gone. Manny Muhammad's probably going to be gone. That's your top safety. That's your top corner right there. You might lose a few other guys too. Just haven't seen enough development from the secondary this year, and the pass defense just continues to be a problem. Gunnar Stockton had 5 touchdowns and 5 incompletions on Saturday. I know he's good. I know Georgia's good. It ain't supposed to look that good. It ain't supposed to be that easy for them, and it was on Saturday. So, yeah, did not expect that in 2025. Well, if you made it this far, God bless you. I don't know how you did. This was a tough one for me to do and a tough one to listen to. Again, I promise we will be more positive as the week goes along, but we're all miserable together. Misery loves company, and we're hurting. We're down bad after what happened on Saturday. But really, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, all of those great things. That's how I don't get fired. Can't thank y'all enough for your continued support of Locked On Longhorns. This is so much fun because I get to share this experience with y'all. Hey, for your next listen, check out Locked On Bets. Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they have you covered. Your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. Game picks, expert analysis, the lock of the day. They have it all. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Sound from Steve Sarkisian tomorrow. More takeaways from Georgia. And again, some early thoughts on Texas, Arkansas, all coming up on tomorrow's show. But that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.